Good afternoon and welcome. Hello, my name is Steve Miller and I'm proud to be the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Victoria Theater Association and the Arts Center Foundation. On behalf of all our staff, trustees, and volunteers, it is our pleasure to welcome the members of the Dayton Development Coalition and its stakeholders to our annual meeting this afternoon. We sincerely thank you for choosing the Schuster Center, as we believe it is one of the crown jewels of the Dayton community, and events like this only make it more so. The Victoria Theater Association is proud of its role in being part of a vibrant downtown Dayton and in contributing to the overall quality of life in the Miami Valley. As we get ready to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Schuster Center on March 1st, and who can believe that it's been 10 years already that this building's been here, we are keenly aware of our fiduciary roles as the steward of some very important community assets and treasures, namely the Schuster Center, the Victoria Theater, the Metropolitan Arts Center, and the Loft Theater. As an organization, we are continually working to ensure that our vision for the future is focused on a sustainable financial model for generations to come, increasing access to programs and facilities for all, and collaborating with both the business community and the entire nonprofit network to promote Dayton and the region as a great place to live, work, and play. We know that many of you are supporters of the VTA's programs through corporate sponsorship, donations, and ticket purchases, and we thank you all for your generosity. In addition, we encourage you to participate in all the arts our community has to offer, whether it's spending time in a small gallery, visiting an artist in their studio, or attending a community theater production. In closing, we want to thank you once again for choosing the Schuster Center for your annual meeting, and again, thank you for all your support for all the arts in our community.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Hoagland, President and CEO of the Dayton Development Coalition, and thank you for being here today. What a great crowd. Truly appreciate everyone being here. On behalf of our Board of Trustees and staff, it's our privilege to welcome you to the 2012 Dayton Development Coalition annual meeting here at the Benjamin and Marion Schuster Performing Arts Center. This program is the Coalition's opportunity to report to its diverse group of stakeholders our outcomes from 2012 and provide a vision for the future. Everyone in this room has a plan for 2013, whether you're representing academia, industry, public administration. We're all contributing to the economic prosperity of the Dayton region. Your vision may look different than ours, but our goal today is to show you what this coalition of stakeholders has accomplished together and how we can all find a way to marshal our resources to build opportunities in this new year. This year's program will be structured a little bit differently than the past years. Our goal is to cover just a little bit of our highlights from 2012. This will allow more time for real-life examples from our speakers and discussion on our future opportunities. If you would like more information on our 2012 results, you all should have received a USB drive with our annual report on it. And all that information, along with special reports, has been published on that. We encourage you to open the annual report and step through it. At the end, 10 lucky winners will be notified that they have each won 10 tickets to the NCAA's first 4 games held this year on March 19th and 20th at the University of Dayton Arena. So make sure you look through those annual reports because there are 10 winners. Now it's my pleasure to recognize a number of distinguished visitors with us today. It would take our entire time together to introduce all of our VIPs, so please bear with me while I limit introductions to just a few. On behalf of our Board of Trustees, who's in front with us tonight, I would like to recognize representatives of our federal elected officials who support the Dayton region but could not be here today. From Senator Sherrod Brown's office, Paul Bradley. Thank you, Paul. From Senator Rob Portman's office, Kevin Hoggett and Connie Logg. From Representative Mike Turner's office, Valerie Lemmy, Tamara Hawes, and Marty Heide. From Representative Steve Shabbat's office, Stephen Hill. Also with us this evening is Lieutenant General C.D. Moore, Commander of the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center, whom you will hear from later in our program, and Colonel Cassie Barlow, the commander of the 88th Air Base Wing. Thank you, too, for all you do. Thank you. Additionally, I'd like to welcome the many representatives from our State General Assembly, regional counties, our surrounding cities, villages, and townships. I'd like to ask all of our local elected officials to please stand and be recognized. I know there's a bunch here. Don't be shy. And thank you for all you do. I know the work is endless, and you may not think you have enough hours in the day, but please keep up the work because the region is moving forward. To the many city managers, university presidents, business leaders, regional advocates, and community leaders here this afternoon, thank you for your commitment to the Dayton region. I'd like to personally thank board members, the DDC staff, as well as all the coalition members who contributed to the success of 2012. Your generous support enables the coalition to pursue its mission. As many of you know, the community and DDC lost a friend and one of the DDC's first employees in Dan Curtis this past month. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Dan's family and friends. I want to also give very special thanks to our annual meeting sponsors. Our lead sponsors today are Northrop Grumman and PNC. Thank you very much. The other supporting sponsors represented are in your program and on the screen behind me today. Please join me in thanking all of our sponsors. One important supporter that deserves my personal thanks is to DP&L and Phil. I know you're here today with us, and I think Tom Rega, you're here as well. You guys have been critical to the success of the coalition and the region. We're deeply grateful for the years of support and look forward to continued collaboration in 2013. Thank you very much again. In 2012, we mourned the loss of a great man, a physician and a friend, Dr. Benjamin Schuster. As we sit in one of his most distinguished contributions in the Dayton community, I'd like to ask you all for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Pam Morris, President and CEO of CareSource. My experience as an entrepreneur has taught me several lessons. I learned that transformation can be a daunting task, a seemingly overwhelming challenge, and definitely not for the faint of heart. Yet for some, including myself, it can be an internal drive that recharges us daily. Transformation definitely doesn't come easily, but when it happens, it has the power to change a company, an industry, or even society. In 1989, when CareSource was founded, we set out to transform how healthcare is delivered to the underserved. After working in the County Job and Family Service Office in Marion, Ohio, and seeing the uncoordinated care Medicaid members received, I knew there must be a better way. That was the genesis of CareSource. Along the way, there have been challenges that we didn't expect, and we had to adapt to outside factors that we couldn't have anticipated. In our 24-year history, we've had to refine our vision, stretch our goals, and remember to never lose sight of the reason CareSource was founded. Our success came as an unwavering dedication to our consumers and a desire to drive innovation in our industry. The people in this room also have the resources and passion to transform our region, but we must be prepared to adapt to outside factors and use our history of innovation to propel us forward. This afternoon, it's my pleasure to introduce a prominent leader in our community and a man with an extraordinary passion for innovation. David Hopkins was appointed the 6th president of Wright State University in 2007. Since his inauguration, Dave's administration has been cultivating innovation throughout the university, and this focus is reflected through the development of several centers of excellence. 6 of those multidisciplinary units have been designated Ohio Centers of Excellence by the state. These units reflect a commitment to technology-based economic development by attracting and retaining national researchers, educators, artists, students, and investments that produce a quality of life that will lead to future growth and has the power to transform our region. These centers incorporate current and future collaborations with business, industry, and government, and have renewed the university's focus on commercialization. He is a change agent in this community, is always looking ahead, and a tireless proponent of innovation in our region. Please welcome Dr. David Hopkins.
In a Wired article last week, Larry Page, co-founder and CEO of Google, discussed a great pitfall in R&D. Without commercialization, there is no innovation. This region can lead every metric in research funding and scientific discovery, but if we fail to find markets for the resulting technology, if we don't actually develop the research, are we still a community of innovation? It's a tough question that deserves a thoughtful answer. Had the Wright brothers merely researched the principles of flight, would I have the privilege of working at a university proudly bearing their surname? In today's knowledge economy, we cannot afford to rest on our laurels, and we cannot be content to research solutions that other regions commercialize. It's imperative that this region leverage our rich culture of R&D to build tomorrow's business opportunities. Ohio's higher education institutions conduct over $2 billion of research annually, ranking 6th in the nation. This research has led to scholarship and discoveries that have enabled us to live longer, healthier, and have a better quality of life. We have, as a state, however, not been as successful in commercializing technologies coming out of this research. Our track record in generating revenues through licensing of technologies, creation of spin-off companies, and associated job creation needs to improve to help revitalize Ohio's economy. At Wright State University, we're exploring multiple pathways towards enabling a greater success in industry collaboration and commercialization. We've implemented an embedded faculty member model with Mound Laser and Photonics, where Wright State and the high technology firm jointly hire a professor. The professor and researchers at the company jointly generate intellectual property that can be commercialized to benefit both partners. Both the university and the company have their skin in the game. The terms of intellectual property sharing are worked out well in advance. The company helps the faculty member and the students truly understand market needs. The industry also helps accelerate the movement of technology along the pipeline of commercialization. The faculty member provides cutting-edge expertise that would not have been readily available otherwise. It is a win-win for both partners, for the region and for the state of Ohio. We're exploring another model where a Wright State alumnus who has significant expertise in building and growing companies is partnering with our faculty and students to help take innovative ideas to the market. Our approach is to use the expertise of a Wright State grad with the relevant experience at company creation to invest their funds and work with faculty and students to transition promising ideas to the market. Our model is built around leveraging one another's strengths. Not all of the efforts will lead to spin-off companies, but when we have a success, all the stakeholders benefit through an equity position in the company and through licensing fees generated. The University of Dayton Research Institute also knows the challenge of transitioning research into a viable commercial enterprise. This summer, the Research Institute will celebrate 57 years of significant contributions to the advances in research and development of new technologies. They have improved the quality of life around the globe. In that time, UDRI has grown from an active participant to a critical partner in Dayton's economic development, helping to define and drive the region's economic future. UDRI is currently under contract for more than $500 million in research and are an integral part of our regional research culture, and one that we can all be proud to have in our community. And as proud as I am of our Wright State and University of Dayton initiatives, they are merely one dimension of the regional effort needed to move Dayton from a research-driven community to innovators once again. Joining us as partners in that effort is the DDC. Beginning in 1997 with our Miami Valley Venture Funds, and since the advent of the ESP Investment Fund in late 2007, the coalition has been leading entrepreneurial development efforts focusing on technology-based startups. As you may know, 2012 was a challenging year for our entrepreneurial development team. Despite their ups and downs, the results stand on their own. To date, companies in the coalition's portfolio have generated more than $200 million in follow-on investment. This investment, called A-Metrics, includes new money invested in those companies through loans, grants, federal R&D investment, product sales, and license income. As you can see, since program inception, the sources of our A-Metrics have changed from a heavy reliance on federal R&D to more traditional product sales, with the third quarter being the highest total in overall A-Metrics, as well as the largest portion of product sales in the program's history. This follow-on investment represents a ratio of $13 in market validation for every pre-seed dollar invested, far above the state's required $3 return for every dollar invested. In addition, the fund has returned, almost 35% of the capital contributed by its investors right back to those investors after only 4 years of a 10-year fund. When benchmarked against funds of a similar age, we ranked in the top quartile of all funds nationwide. Beyond the financial results, these companies have caught the attention of captains of industry like Boeing and Airbus and have been a catalyst for job creation throughout our region. To date, the Entrepreneurial Signature Program has been directly responsible for the creation and retention of 450 jobs, not to mention the thousands of indirect jobs that have been and will be created by the investment made. The coalition respects the state's decision to invest in more traditional models, but we have not allowed that decision to sideline such a productive program. In that spirit, the team is raising alternative funds to ensure the Dayton region's entrepreneurs and innovators continue to thrive and excel. The result of this effort has been a renewed sense of energy in the community, and the team is now generating a new fund to continue critical pre-seed investments without state funding. To transform itself, this new fund is different than before, seeking as many participants in the fund as possible, and we are still adding investors. In 2013, you will see a broad angel network, continued A-Metrics and job creation, even closer alignment between entrepreneurial organizations, and an energized focus on commercializing the many R&D opportunities that exist within the region. Thomas Edison said this: "The reason a lot of people do not recognize opportunity is because it usually goes around wearing overalls looking like hard work." Innovation is hard work. Commercialization is hard work. And as we've been doing, it's time again, it's time to roll up our sleeves and start working on tomorrow's opportunities.
Hello, I'm Debbie Feldman, and I am the President and CEO of Dayton Children's Medical Center. Most people have a tendency to fear change. The more disruptive the change, the more it is resisted. Throughout history, the masses have feared electricity, powered flight, even women voting, privacy settings on social media such as Facebook, and yet the world around us has consistently adapted to the change. Those who don't adapt are left behind. This is a truth businesses grapple with on a regular basis. To be successful in commercial markets, companies must not only adapt to customer demand, they must also look for new applications for their goods and services. Joe Morgan at Standard Register has been leading the change regionally to find a smarter, faster way to transition from a culture of paper, copies, and forms in triplicate to digital applications and databases. Joe was appointed President and CEO of Standard Register in January 2009. In this position, he is responsible for championing the growth of the company as an industry-leading document services provider. His roots at the company began in 2001, leading Standard Register's SmartWorks, an internet-based application for forms management. SmartWorks was a major outcome of Standard Register's entrance into the digital era. From leading SmartWorks to his pre-Standard Register days, leading Sony Chemical Corporation of America, through the startup and development of its first integrated manufacturing operation outside of Japan, Joe has been a catalyst for transformation. Being a change agent has been a necessity for the leader of a company with its roots based in paper forms. In 2012, Standard Register celebrated its centennial anniversary. A lot of ground has been covered over the past century, from its first patent in 1909 to innovations in document security to its entrance into the digital age. Standard Register is an expert in forsaking the old to meet the demand in an ever-evolving marketplace. So please join me in welcoming Joe Morgan.
Good afternoon. In the Dayton region, the recession changed the rules for economic development, and the knowledge-based economy is changing the definition of productivity. The knowledge-based economy is the next evolution of the industrial economy, an innovative environment that treats knowledge as both a tool and a product. This evolution is not an easy transition for regions like Dayton, where productivity has historically been measured by the number of widgets produced. The cultural transformation from a manufacturing economy to a knowledge economy has no easy solution, yet it can be accomplished, and the Dayton region has a strong foundation from which to build. One of the greatest assets we have in the region is the existence of industries that generate technology. From advanced manufacturing that is developing technologies to improve productivity, to the R&D industry that is continuously seeking solutions to scientific and engineering challenges. To become an innovative leader, we know the Dayton region must transform its culture and realign investments that will promote its technology capability and thereby strengthen the economy. The old ways of doing business and training the workforce are no longer sufficient to become a player in the global economy. At Standard Register, we have moved our company from a supply-side-based company focused primarily on products to a demand-based company where we concentrate on understanding the details of our customers' business and thereby developing solutions that fit that. A great example is in our healthcare business unit, where we begin a transition from a myopic focus on printed documents to one that looks at the fact that improving healthcare really matters. And more importantly, we have a role. That role allows us to positively impact quality, efficiency, and cost by standardizing patient-centric communications. We achieve that goal by leveraging our technology and services in clinical, administrative, and marketing functions. The work ahead is challenging for our team, but we're competing in the area where money is being spent. Standard Register is advancing our manufacturing capabilities to be far more digital in nature. Our R&D efforts are more market-focused, and our intellect as a company is evolving quickly. This change is not an option for our company, and honestly, is a very exciting place to be for all of us. In 2012, the coalition worked with Wright State's Center for Public and Urban Affairs to identify 4 things that this region can do to build new opportunities in new markets. The first is to develop an innovation ecosystem. As we heard from Dr. Hopkins earlier, performing research isn't enough. In order to be a player in the innovation economy, the Dayton region must find applications for technology, potential commercial markets where technology is adapted and advanced. Secondly, we must increase the region's global fluency. The Brookings Institution and J.P. Morgan Chase have launched a Global Cities Initiative designed to help American cities become more globally fluent. The premise is that globally fluent cities will serve as the economic drivers for the global economy. Brookings reported that between 2009 and 2010, the fastest growing global economies were outside of the United States and Europe. For U.S. metropolitans like Dayton to become globally fluent, we must leverage the assets our regions offer and become more engaged in the global economy. This includes seeking out global markets for exports and an infusion of immigrants, a demographic that is known for its entrepreneurship. Third, we must transform the region's workforce. The Dayton region's workforce can no longer earn a high wage without post-secondary education and training. In addition, the higher education system must be responsive to business demand for skilled workers. And fourth, we must track regional performance. For the Dayton region to be a global player in the innovation economy, it must be measured against other global fluent regions. This will provide state and local leaders a view to any gaps that exist and a strategy to address them with both public and private investment. The Dayton region has the opportunity to transform itself. Unlike many of its Midwestern neighbors and the other Rust Belt communities, the Dayton region already has a knowledge-based economic engine in Wright-Patterson and the headquarters of 5 out of the 10 Air Force research directorates, which has cultivated a very strong R&D culture. Like its Midwestern neighbors, Dayton has a rich manufacturing heritage. The region boasts 2 strong research institutions and community colleges that can respond to the workforce challenges. And the best part of all is that Dayton region can lead this transformation and serve as an example for other Midwestern communities. By doing so, the Dayton region will be known for its strong economy and innovation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Bridges, President of Peerless Technologies Corporation. We are pleased to have with us today some of the senior leaders from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Wright-Patterson is an economic engine for the Dayton region with an annual economic impact to the region of more than $5 billion. As Ohio's largest single-site employer, it is home to more than 29,000 employees who selflessly serve our country. Also located behind the fence is the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center. Last year, LCMC consolidated missions previously performed by the Aeronautical Systems Center and Air Force Security Assistance Center at Wright-Patterson and centers from Massachusetts and Florida. Approximately 26,000 LCMC airmen, civilian, and contractor employees perform LCMC missions across some 75 locations. Led by Lieutenant General C.D. Moore, the LCMC is charged with the life cycle management of Air Force weapon systems from their inception to retirement. And we're pleased that General Moore is here with us today to offer a few comments. General Moore is a distinguished graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, as well as the top graduate in engineering. A Guggenheim Fellow, he completed a Master of Science degree in Aeronautical Engineering at Columbia University before entering flight school in 1981. Among his many distinguished assignments, he served as a T-38 instructor pilot, an operational F-15 pilot, commander of the 1st F-22 Squadron, the Chief of Air Operations for Multinational Forces Iraq in 2004, and he is a command pilot with more than 3,000 flight hours in 30 types of aircraft. Prior to assuming his current position, General Moore was Vice Commander, Air Force Materiel Command. Please join me in welcoming General Moore to the stage.
Mike, thank you for that kind introduction and for inviting me to be here today. I have to actually go off script here for a second. I've had the opportunity in the past to sit in this audience and watch my daughter perform on this stage. I can't wait to tell her that her old man was up here on the stage. But I got to tell you, I'm not going to sound as pretty as she does. She's an opera singer, so it really is a privilege to be here today to represent the men and women of the United States Air Force, as well as our sister services who also serve here in the local area. Thank you all for your tremendous support from all the local communities towards Wright-Patterson and our mission. I know I speak on behalf of General Wolfenbarger in expressing gratitude for this strong community-based partnership. In particular, we are extremely appreciative of the Dayton Development Coalition and all that you do to strengthen those ties, for invigorating the region's business climate, and for building a community that we are all proud to call home. Now, I recently read 2 articles about Dayton, and I thought they really shed some light on the people of this area and reflect on the efforts of the DDC. So I just had to touch on them. The first article dealt with growing the number of skilled immigrants being drawn to this area and the positive impact they are having on the local economy and culture. This is an exciting change that enriches the community and benefits all of us. The other story was even more interesting. It was out of Forbes. Forbes rated the workers in the Dayton region as the happiest in the country. Yeah, that was my reaction too. But when I thought about it longer, I have the opportunity, as Mike said, to work with a number of people from the local area, and I thought about their attitude and their contentment with what they do, so I wasn't too surprised by the result. Dayton does have such a rich heritage. With your efforts, this story is becoming more colorful, more exciting, and more promising. If I could be so bold to say, I think the Wright brothers would be very proud. Now, for some truth in advertising, I'm on my 4th assignment now here at Wright-Patterson, so I can say from experience this is a great place to live and a great place to work, and the effective work of the DDC and the other community leaders is making it even better. So, before I get off stage, I wanted to touch on 2 points that I think are probably of interest and relevant to this base community relationship. First, the Air Force Materiel Command reorganization that Mike alluded to that happened last summer, and also the current DoD budget situation. That's kind of the elephant in the room. Now, as many of you know, we reorganized last summer, by transitioning from a 12-center construct to a more streamlined and efficient 5-center organization. In doing so, we reduced manpower across the entire Air Force Materiel Command by over 4,000 people and over 16,000 across the Air Force. We are now 6 months into that transitional journey and continuing to mature our new organization. The results so far are encouraging as we find better, more efficient ways for conducting our business. Our new 5-center construct is intended to provide a more effective and efficient structure for accomplishing the Air Force Materiel Command mission. That mission statement is to equip the Air Force for world-dominant air power. One of the 5 new centers is headquartered here at Wright-Patterson, as you heard earlier, my organization, the Life Cycle Management Center. It did absorb the Aeronautical Systems Center, which many of you are probably familiar with, along with a number of other legacy organizations from across the country. The Life Cycle Management Center has the responsibility to acquire and support war-winning capabilities as we manage now all aircraft, engines, munitions, and cyber electronic systems for the entire Air Force. We do that with that team of 26,000 that Mike talked about, active duty, government, civilian, and support contractors located at Wright-Patterson, as well as at 76 other locations across the country and abroad. As a new organization, we have much broader responsibilities in the aeronautical enterprise as we focus on life cycle management. Our job is to ensure effective development, production, fielding, and the support for all those fielded systems. Now, with those broader responsibilities, there are more opportunities, I believe, for partnership as we work to improve how we do business across this new geographically dispersed enterprise, and how we look for more cost-effective ways and improved processes to expertly deliver warfighter support. Now, with that organizational backdrop, let me briefly touch on the fiscal environment and the implications for our Air Force and for Air Force Material Command. To quote my boss, General Wolfenbarger, fiscal realities may change, but our commitment, dedication, and devotion to expertly accomplish our mission will remain steadfast and true. So yes, we are facing a tremendous budgetary uncertainty in the Air Force and Department of Defense. This uncertainty necessitates that we plan for reductions long-term while taking actions today to reduce expenditures. We are doing that through a number of prudent measures. This includes actions such as curtailing non-mission essential flying and TDYs travel, stopping minor purchases, deferring facility sustainment projects, and probably most notably, implementing a temporary hiring freeze, which you've probably heard and read about. While we tighten our expenditure belts, we remain absolutely committed to the mission and laser focused on making this new organization as efficient and as effective as possible to meet the needs of the Department of Defense and our nation in this budget-constrained environment. We will be most successful in this challenging time by continuing to build a strong and vibrant partnership with the local community. The efforts of the Dayton Development Coalition are an essential part of that relationship. As we look to the future, we are confident that our relationship with the greater Dayton community will grow only stronger. Together, we will weather this period of budgetary uncertainty, and we will continue delivering the capabilities needed by our Air Force, and we will emerge stronger when the budget dust settles. Thank you again for allowing me to speak today. On a personal note, it is great to be back in Dayton. Thank you.
Thank you, General Moore. This community does not underestimate the importance of organizations such as yours, as well as the entire mission of Wright-Patterson. We stand prepared to support your organizations and the varied missions of the base in whatever way possible. Yours is a partnership that we truly value, and we offer our thanks to you and the men and women of Wright-Patterson, along with Springfield Air National Guard Base, for your service to our country. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Lisa Mitchell is Vice President of Innovation and Networks at the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. The Kauffman Foundation was established in the 1960s by the late entrepreneur and philanthropist Ewing Marion Kauffman. Based in Kansas City, Missouri, the Kauffman Foundation is among the largest foundations in the United States with an asset base of approximately $2 billion. Their vision is to foster a society of economically independent individuals who are engaged citizens contributing to the improvement of their communities. In service of this vision, they focus their grant-making and operations on two key areas, education and entrepreneurship, of which Mr. Kauffman saw as two ends of a continuum. A quality education is the foundation for self-sufficiency, preparing young people for success in college and life beyond. Many young adults will work in businesses started by entrepreneurs. Some will become entrepreneurs themselves, providing jobs and wealth for society and their communities. Lisa's responsibilities at the foundation include identification of programmatic and policy levers that can accelerate innovation and support networks enabling firm growth. She was instrumental in the founding of the Kauffman Innovation Network, iBridge Network, the Translational Medicine Conferences in the United States and Europe, and the National Academies-based University Industry Partnership. She is also a leader in the replication of innovator-based commercialization and mentor programs across the United States. Lisa recently served on the board of Gazelle Growth in Denmark and is currently chairman of the Kauffman Fast Track Board. She is an advisory member of the National Science Foundation I Corporation and of Modern Meadow, Inc. Prior to joining Kauffman, Lisa spent 20 years of her career in global executive roles at Aventis and Quintiles, and she was an entrepreneur focused on the global management of electronic clinical trials. This afternoon, we are honored for Lisa to join us via video conference. Please join me in welcoming her as she shares best practices moving science to market wherever you are located.
Very much. Thank you for allowing me to join you via Skype. And I think it's apropos of the discussion today that I am joining you via modern technology that we have, especially because I think the beginning and the end of my talk is think global from the outset, and location doesn't matter. And hopefully there's a chart up in the room that's titled The Network Economy. And the reason for this chart, we at the Kauffman Foundation, as he said, have assets that allows us to fund a great deal of both research and programmatic initiatives across the country. Much of the research that we have funded over the last 10 years with the National Bureau of Economic Research has shown us the importance of networks and the importance of essentially thinking in a boundaryless way, which is very difficult, I know, when we're all struggling with funding at the level of a city, a state, and in many cases, a region. But what I hope that you garner from this slide is really the importance of thinking about, even at the level of a state, what your state looks like. We spend a lot of time at the Kauffman Foundation hosting about 80,000 people across the globe every year. And I literally always use this slide, even with leadership of places like Singapore and other countries, and say, this isn't a recipe. This is for you to look at and say, as I look at the resources, and I've listened to some of the talks before me today talking about understanding the assets that are available to you in your region, and that's so important, but it's equally important to understand the different assets and how they play different roles, whether they be startups in your community, big companies in your community that can become the first customers or part of the supply chain with startups, the role of government, whether that be through SBIR funding or some of the alternative funding models that I've heard talked about today. And then last but not least, the importance of the role of universities. And I would say, with deference to everyone that came before me, that I agreed with all of their talks. What we haven't talked about is why universities have become even more important in our economy than they were 20 and 30 years ago. 30 years ago and before, we had large research institutions like Bell Labs and others that frankly had huge research budgets, and they were doing a lot of the basic research. Fairchild Labs in California, I'm sure there were many in all states across the country. But what's happened over the last 20 to 30 years is as corporations have tightened up their business models and frankly become global, which is a different strain on them than they had previously, they, in the same process, have reduced much of their research funding and are looking to universities to play that role in the economy, providing some of the very basic research that's funded through the Department of Defense, the National Science Foundation, NIH, and the national, all of the institutions in Washington. And so the role of the university is critical, but I would tell you that the most important lesson from this slide for us over the years has been when we first created this slide, and it was published in Foreign Affairs article in 2004, it had straight lines across the four actors of the economy. And it has since become obvious through our research on network theory that it is actually the porosity of the boundaries between all of the institutions in your economy that are extremely important. Whether that be the military facilities doing research, whether it be a Battelle or a large corporation or the universities in your backyard, the question is, how do the collaborative models work across all of those institutions, and how do we make them more seamless, less bureaucratic, yes, I'll say that, less bureaucratic, and allow, frankly, all actors, whether they be the immigrant population that's coming in that I heard someone speaking about, whether they be early young students, or whether they be, our experienced individuals that are retiring that frankly in many cases are now starting second careers because they want to, and in some cases they have to, becoming a, maker in their backyard, utilizing MakerBot technologies or the other software technologies and hardware technologies that are out there. So engaging all of those in our economy is important. So would you switch to slide 2 now? And so let me talk about, as I said, we have funded a great deal of research to understand what are the best strategies of moving science to market. And some of these, I would say, fall in the soft category, and some of them fall in the more discrete, we can understand them and we can replicate them category. As the person who introduced me just said, I'm on the founding board of the National Science Foundation I-Corps model, and the I-Corps model was frankly created based upon our lessons. We have been following what I would call either proof of concept or translational. It depends upon whether you're in the hard sciences, engineering, or life science fields. They call them different things, but frankly, they all mean the same, which is how do we take some of these really early stage basic research projects and move them along in a way before they have to be put into the for-profit world. So we call that de-risking them. How do we de-risk these models and the technologies before we have to move them to market? I've been working with the Despande Center at MIT, which I believe is celebrating its 9th anniversary this year, and von Liebig down at University of California, San Diego, the UCSF Mission Bay campus. The Kauffman Foundation has funded our own institution, proof of concept center at a much smaller institution, to prove the model that you can do it anywhere. And essentially the lessons from this are why we created and funded, along with Despande, the original NSF I-Corps program. And our interest in funding this program, and frankly, if I could wave a magic wand, I would create a similar program at both the the Department of Energy and the National Institute of Health, but I haven't been successful with my wand. But the lessons from all of those proof of concept centers and from the NSF I-Corps program are the same. And the lessons are, if in fact we want to advance knowledge to the market, we need to do a couple of very critical things. One are, frankly, the decision making, and this is a case where these are very granular issues, but unfortunately very difficult to overcome. With the proof of concept centers and the translational centers that we've worked with, the successful ones have a couple of core elements. One is they have an advisory board of decision makers that are comprised of people that are not attached to the university. In all cases, they need to be successful industry leaders, entrepreneurs, or venture capitalists that don't necessarily have a stake in the technology, but have a deep knowledge of the marketplace and a deep knowledge of the competitive landscape in the marketplace. When we see these advisory boards in place, we see it happening in a much more proactive and positive way. And I can tell you, for the universities that we've worked with, I would, for the universities that are participating in this meeting, you should use this from your development office perspective as the opportunity to bring back to Dayton your successful alumni faculty, wherever they are in the world, to participate in this process. We've seen it work now at both large universities and small, and it actually works. The other component is you do need a level of seed funding, and you need a level of project management tied to these. Now, universities have not been known for project management. That's not what they've done. But what we found in every single one of these models is if there aren't people actually managing these projects to go, no-go decisions, the likelihood that they, A, don't meet timelines, and B, use a lot more money than they actually need is very high. And third, but not least, is the educational components that are required for the graduate students that are involved. And I will tell you that our lesson has absolutely been and we've learned it most recently through a dissertation that was just defended at MIT. The role of the graduate students, frankly, are the most critical role in this process. It is not the faculty, it's the graduate students, because you have to have full-time, dedicated resources moving this science to market. And so the educational program that we have put together and now exported essentially to the National Science Foundation through the I-Corps program is being replicated across the country. There are 4 hubs now. We're not making these decisions. The National Science Foundation advisory team is making the decisions together about where they're replicating these educational modules. And these educational modules, frankly, have been put together on one of the new platforms, Udacity, the for-profit or the not-for-profit entity that Google has created, is the platform where we're hosting a lot of these educational modules. But the important component here is to hook up your graduate students with mentors and entrepreneurs in your community, get them the access to these educational components very early on in their project, because that's how they're going to start understanding their market and their customer. So I would say we have clearly understood what the model is. We published a report about 5 years ago, which was the economic return on investment analysis, retrospective analysis of a couple of the proof of concept centers. It's available on our website, and I encourage university leadership to carry it around along with their development office and look for alumni to help fund some of these programs. They're not cheap. The inroad to these programs, if you don't have the funding, is to apply to the NSF I-Corps program. Any graduate student and or faculty member can apply with their project to the NSF I-Corps program. And we've made sure that that program is pretty broad. As all of you know, if you're familiar with NSF, it is the broadest of all agencies in the type of technologies that it looks at. And as I said, we hope that we will soon, we're in our 2nd year of the program now, but that we will soon see the evidence of follow-on funding, which at the end of the day was the 3rd and final lesson of best practice of these types of institutions is, if you don't see for-profit follow-on funding, something's wrong. And I say that very specifically, and knowing that there's a lot of people that aren't going to like it, because frankly, government funding doesn't count when I say follow-on funding. It's the lesson we've learned from our friends in Israel over the years of the early stage government funds that they created when they were instigating their technology economy. And those government dollars were never used to lead. They were always used to follow, whether it be corporate dollars or venture dollars, or any kind of what I would call non-tax funded dollars. And we've absolutely found with all of these programs that the metric should be the ability to bring in follow-on funding outside of necessarily your government or your university, and the ability, obviously, to either move the science to the market, which is a metric defined by licensing agreements done, or in the rare cases where one can actually do it, set up a startup company. I will tell you that there's a significant number of lessons that have helped us understand the problem of startups and the problem of focusing on jobs and startups as a metric. There's a long history with a number of states going back 10 or 15 years where the governors were very interested in focusing on startups. And so this became a metric, and unfortunately skewed a lot of the outcomes of the university more towards being interested in creating a startup, frankly, no matter what. And what we have found in retrospect is in many of those cases, we actually killed technology that could have otherwise lived. And what I mean by that is, if we force the startups to happen when actually there was a company that you could license this technology to and it could make its way to market, many times you can't keep up with the competition of the big co in some cases, but more importantly, if there's not a local management team that can take it on, you shouldn't start the company because you're probably not ultimately going to get follow-on funding. And we have found significant lessons of essentially, especially on the life science side, using the intellectual property life of a product for so long trying to work in a startup that ultimately when you realize it's not going to work anymore, nobody's willing to take it. At the Kauffman Foundation, we call those startups our walking dead. And we should all be motivated to have as few walking dead as possible. And I think I've learned from this work that in working with the universities, when there is the question about how do I know if I should do a startup or if I should license this technology out, the answer actually should be, and if you work with the more experienced offices, you'll hear this, is I do a startup when I have no other choice, simply because there isn't anybody to license it to. If in fact, and I'll explain that again back to the funding cycle, if in fact there is a choice to license, you can clearly create a more sustainable model for your proof of concept center and translational center by bringing those licensing dollars in to pay for other projects. And it's a much shorter term win. If ultimately down the road you can start building out startups with management teams, that's a great thing. But frankly, you shouldn't measure it that way, I don't think. You should be measuring it based upon, are you actually moving the science to the market, measured by licensing deals or measured by follow-on funding? And second, how do we utilize programs and networks to enable growth of these entrepreneurial ecosystems? I realize that's a focus of the discussion here today. And I would tell you the important component, I spend my time traveling all over the world and talking to people in different ecosystems. And again, this brings me back to networks. It's extremely important that you figure out how to bring, whether it's immigrants or industry or entrepreneurs, how do we bring people into our ecosystem that are from outside of our ecosystem? I mean, the successes of a vibrant, rich entrepreneurial ecosystem are very much tied to what the economists call flux, and that's the incoming of new people into your economy, as measured by US Census data, and outcoming people of your economy. Both are important because they're bringing, frankly, new blood, brings new networks into your system. We published a report about a year ago. It was highlighted in Forbes magazine, and literally there's a map that you can click on your region. You can click on every county in your region to see where are people leaving that are going from your community, where are they going to, and where are the people that are coming in, where are they coming from? And that's the networks that they're bringing in and out of your community. So the more that we can encourage bringing diversity of types of people, young, old, immigrants, non-immigrants into our economy, we can clearly tell from both our city and our state data, you show me diversity in an economy and a high level of outcoming and incoming traffic, and we'll show you an economy that's rich with growth. We also know that enabling activities that can instigate the collaborations, and I'll give you I've spent many years of my life in the regenerative medicine business, and I will tell you that a fact of much of these new technology areas is that they happen by accident or serendipity. Literally the very first technology licensed out of MIT and Harvard that became the first company that went public in this space happened because the right engineer and the right Harvard doc sat on an airplane together on a trip between Boston and San Francisco and talked about their science. And so the encouragement that I would provide to you is coming to meetings like this is important. Getting new knowledge is important, but actually what's the most important is what's going to happen in the hallway when all of you go outside. And are we enabling those kinds of meetups and those collaborations between our university leadership, between our graduate students at the universities, the individuals that want to hire them at the companies, And as I said, all levels of the population. And what are the kinds of activities and programs? If you go to the Kauffman Foundation website, we have examples of a ton of different programs that we've funded, seed funded, and are growing across the country, if not across the globe, that enable some of these things to happen. Startup Weekend is a perfect example, and Startup Weekend is predominantly in the Web 2.0 space and the digital health. But I can tell you in both circumstances, last year there were 750 Startup Weekends around the world. And my concern is that the greatest growth is outside the United States, not in. Many big companies, Microsoft, Google, et cetera, host Startup Weekends at their offices in hopes that they can bring entrepreneurs, scientists, et cetera, from the community to bring ideas together, get the experiential opportunity of moving science to market. So the moral of the story that I'm delivering to you, I hope, is that there are lessons. We have data, we have reports that we can give you, but in many cases, some of this isn't rocket science. And it goes back to my slide 1, which is how do we create more porous boundaries between the universities, between the big companies, the startups, and those in our government agencies that have funding, have science, have technology, that needs customers, that needs to be part of a supply chain. There isn't a one-size-fits-all recipe. There are models that you can replicate, but I would encourage you to think global from the outset, realize what you've been talking about today, to collect your assets and understand how you can work those in your economy, but bring as many people from outside your ecosystem into your ecosystem and encourage as many people in your ecosystem to go out so that you do encourage this constant churn of new ideas, new linkages between the scientist and the engineer that could develop a new technology. And if at all possible, link into some of these programs that are out there, in many cases, very inexpensive to run and easily accessible. So I appreciate for the opportunity, as I said, to present to you. I have no idea what it looks like from your end. You guys look great. And your location looks beautiful. I would love to take questions, but I'm guessing that's probably too difficult. So I would ask you, my email is lmitchell@kauffman.org. Anyone that wants to email me, ask for reports, ask for anything that I've talked about today, I am always on. And feel free to follow me at Lisa Mitchell. I travel around the world and collect best practices, and if you're on Twitter, you can catch them anytime. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. We know your speaking engagements and conferences keep you moving, and we appreciate the time you made in your schedule to share your insights today. My name is Ann Klamar. I'm President and CEO of Midmark Corporation. And as is customary at the annual meeting, we like to update the region on our board. First, I'd like to thank the following members who will be leaving the board for their service to the organization and to the region. Leaving the board this year, Dr. Mark Erickson, former president, Wittenberg University; Dr. Karen Rafinsky, president, Clark State Community College; Alan Elijah, United Way, President and CEO of United Way of the Dayton area. Please join me in thanking these folks for their hard work and support. We would also like to congratulate Karen on her upcoming retirement. For 2013, we will be adding new board members, and we are extremely pleased that they've agreed to serve. This year's class of new members includes Michael Bridges, President, Peerless Technology Corporation; Deborah Feldman, President and CEO, Dayton Children's Medical Center; Philip Harrington, President and CEO, DPNL; Dr. Cynthia Jackson-Hammond, President, Central State University; Julia Wallace, Market Vice President, Cox Media Group, Ohio; and NIOP Representative Jaron Barnett, President and CEO, Synergy Mills Development Companies. Please join me in welcoming our incoming board members. As you know, our members are critical partners that make the work that we're reporting today possible. This year we had another successful membership campaign with a number of volunteers. Thanks to their help, we were able to add several new coalition members. AAA Allied Group has again supported our volunteer efforts. Ray Keaton and Mickey Dudis have generously provided a 7-day Caribbean cruise, including airfare, to one of the volunteers who actively contributed to the campaign. Ray and Mickey, will you please stand and be recognized? This year, the winner is Jay Moeller from Battelle & Battelle. Thank you, volunteers in the AAA Allied Group.
Good afternoon. Dr. Martin Luther King stated, "Not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service." In line with this sentiment, it is an annual meeting tradition that the Coalition present its highest honor, the Regional Leader Award, to an individual who has exemplified this greatness through both leadership and service to our community. While the Regional Leader Award is a nice enough name, it clearly needs to be punched up. We need a name for this award that speaks to the individual strength and selfless service that this award represents. A name that people in our community will nod their heads when they hear it. Of course, I understand what it means to receive that award. I understand what that award represents. So on behalf of the Coalition's Board of Trustees, it is an honor to announce today that the formerly unremarkably monikered Regional Leaders Award will henceforth be known as the Maureen Patterson Regional Leader Award. Maureen just loves to be recognized. For those of you who know Maureen, this change to the name of the award speaks for itself. But if you have yet to meet Maureen, you will discover what the rest of us know, that Maureen represents a rare and beautiful blend of passion, compassion, service, leadership, and fearlessness. Maureen, you embody what is best about our community and what we all aspire to be. So thank you for setting the example for all of us to follow. So, with that crucial change in place, the Coalition is proud to announce the inaugural winner of the Maureen Patterson Regional Leader Award, General Lester L. Lyles. General Lyles. General Lyles is a distinguished graduate of the Air Force ROTC program. During an impressive 35-year military career, General Lyles served as commander of the Air Force Materiel Command at Wright-Patterson, Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, Director of the Ballistic Missile Defense Organization, and Commander of the Space and Missile Systems Center. General Lyles currently serves as a Director for General Dynamics Corp., KBR Corp., Battelle, Precision Cast Parts Corp., and as chairman of USAA Auto Insurance. As a private citizen, General Lyles continues to serve as a member of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, the NASA Advisory Council, and the Defense Science Board. General Lyles has a long, General Lyles really, this is hard for me to say, but he's long lived in the DC area. Despite this lapse in judgment, he has never wavered in his support for our region. He has continually aided our community efforts with his reputation and his drive. As just one of many examples, General Lyles served as the first co-chair of Wright-Pat 2020. In this capacity, he took on the challenging task of making sure our region actually secured the missions that Wright-Pat was awarded in the 2005 BRAC. You know, it is one thing to win the missions in the BRAC process, but it is another to keep those missions and transport and develop the workforce necessary to support those missions. The Right Path 2020 initiative has been nationally recognized as a resounding success. It brought hundreds and hundreds of highly skilled workers from Texas and elsewhere to our region to make sure the Air Force's post-BRAC needs were met. General Lyles has generously agreed to co-chair our current Right Path 2020 project. This effort is designed to position our community as we face future BRAC challenges and opportunities. It is with great pleasure that we ask General Lyles to come and say a few words in acceptance of the Maureen Patterson Regional Leader Award. General Lyles.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is quite an honor and quite a surprise. I was not expecting this. When I heard about it a day or so ago, I was obviously very, very humbled and very, very honored, but probably even more so impressed with the fact that this is the first Maureen Patterson Regional Leader Award. And Maureen, I can't tell you what that means to me personally. Your tireless effort in support of everything in this community and all the things that you do for the people, for the region, for the companies, for the organizations, you are just an inspiration for all of us, and I feel blessed and honored to have something with your name on it. Thank you very much. When I knew I would have an opportunity to step in front of this audience just for a couple of minutes, it's really like being back home for me. Unlike C.D. Moore, I only had 3 assignments at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. As a second lieutenant in the 70s, as a major/lieutenant colonel in the 80s, and then from 1999, or actually 2000 to 2003, as a 4-star commander of Air Force Materiel Command. And I would tell you, there's no way that you can serve in this community in any respect. Certainly those leadership opportunities in the military, but even subsequent to that, serving on the board of directors of MTC Technologies, serving on the board of Dayton Power and Light, serving as a board of trustees of Wright State University, being associated with the Dayton Development Coalition. There's no way you can do any of that without falling in love with this region, but more importantly, being totally impressed with everything that this region stands for. I've given speeches, I won't bore you right now with the details, given speeches talking about innovation and technology that come from the legacy of this great community. And in everything that I do today, I never fail to mention the Dayton region in some respects or another. Bev mentioned that I'm associated with the Defense Science Board and the vice chairman of the Defense Science Board. We just finished doing a major study for the Secretary of Defense that has a promise of hundreds of millions of dollars associated with the results of this study to be set aside to support science and technology research and development. And in all the things that we looked at, all the things the Defense Science Board looked at, again, I never failed to mention Dayton, the Dayton region, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Air Force Research Laboratory as a source of future studies, future innovations, future technologies. And hopefully, some of those technologies, some of those innovations will be supported by the efforts of the Defense Science Board. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I'm a member of the National Academy of Engineers, and in that capacity, I chair the Academy's Aeronautics and Space Engineering Board. And most of our work is with NASA. And I hope, as Lisa mentioned in her wonderful presentation about reaching out beyond our normal borders or normal things that are customary to us, I hope when people think about customers, when they think about talking and working with organizations, that you don't forget the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The National Academy did a study 2 years ago for NASA dealing with science and technology needs for the future. And again, everything that they talked about are the kind of things that I know exist in some form or another in terms of innovation or technology here in the Dayton region. So there is another partner besides DOD. In spite of my love for DOD, there is another major partner that I hope some of you, and perhaps all of you, will reach out to as a source of resource, a source of funding, a source for help in getting some of the programs that you're involved in started. So again, I'm honored and blessed to have this beautiful award with Maureen's name on it. I want to thank the Dayton Development Coalition for the opportunity to work with them to support the things that are happening in this community, both for today and certainly for the future. They really are helping to grow opportunities for future growth, future technologies, future activities, future innovations here in the Dayton region. And Jeff, I thank you for everything the DDC does, and thank all of you for your support to the Dayton Development Coalition. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you.
Congratulations to General Lyles and to Maureen. Maureen, if it makes you feel any better, I threw in the Jared Barnett Development Award, but it didn't make the short list. I'm Jared Barnett with Synergy and Mills Development, and we're almost ready to wrap things up. I'm here to introduce Jeff Hoagland and talk a little bit about economic development. Economic development requires the resources and efforts of many to be coordinated to achieve positive outcomes. The Coalition is leading several initiatives that will build opportunities for the future, from its new role as the Jobs Ohio Western Region Lead to the UAS initiatives and the Federal Retention Program. The Coalition is a critical voice at the economic development table. And yet the spirit of collaboration permeates every initiative. Every business recruitment project that was located in the Dayton region was a result of a diverse regional team. The entrepreneurial successes were made possible by the Ohio Third Frontier Program, the generous support of our angel investors, and the expertise of subject matter experts and leaders in business. The advocacy for the Dayton region is fruitful and productive because of the public servants who champion our causes here and in Columbus and Washington, D.C. And the growth and expansion of our defense installations witnessed in 2012 were a result of the quality workforce accomplishing the mission, our elected officials who understand the importance of military missions, and the Dayton community region at large. At the heart of the Coalition efforts were the dedicated Coalition staff, the support of the Board of Trustees, and Jeff Hoagland, President and CEO. Jeff has a public service background coming up through the ranks in county and city government, where he served in various roles, including community development for Montgomery County, economic development manager, and finally as assistant city manager for the city of Kettering, where I first bumped into Jeff. In 2004, Jeff joined the city of Vandalia as its city manager, a role he held until joining the DDC in December of 2012 as the executive vice president of operations. Jeff assumed the role of president and CEO in June of 2011. Not only is Jeff active in community both professionally and personally, he has marshaled an outstanding team dedicated to growing the Dayton region. It's been a successful year. It's been a busy year, and the Coalition has many initiatives already in the queue to build opportunities in 2013.
Building opportunities successfully in the Dayton region has always required an active imagination, a vision focused on the future, a willingness to take risks, boldness to take action, and an ability to adapt. We can see this combination in the past successes we hear about so often. These are the lessons that should inspire us about the early innovators we revere, not that they were from here, not that they were successful here, but that they combined imagination, vision, risk, action, and adaptability. The Dayton region is not the exception, but exceptional things have happened here in Dayton. The value of history is to teach us, not to direct us. History provides context. Past leaders inspire. But today we're living in our moment to make our mark and to blaze our own trail. The opportunities are as endless as our imagination and vision. Consider these unrealized opportunities. A fraction of AFRL's $4 billion R&D investment is awarded in the region. $700 million in small business innovation research is begging to be commercialized. $142 million in university R&D has undiscovered market applications. A UAS industry in its infancy with the potential to grow into a $70 billion engine. We're importing 70% of our goods and services. That's 70%, $70 billion in imports flooding into a region with more manufacturing capacity than most states and countries could dream about. And these are just some of the opportunities we know about. If we're going to successfully build opportunities, we must develop strategies that exploit these opportunities and learn how to spot those that are undiscovered. If there is an industry at the moment that is full of imagination and future possibility, it's the unmanned aircraft system market that you've heard much about today. Possible applications range across industry, from farming to weather research, and across sectors, from disaster response to network communications. Those applications have the potential to be the most disruptive event we've experienced since the advent of the personal computer. There is still much about the UAS industry that is speculation, but without imagination and vision, we likely wouldn't walk around with more computing power in our pockets, and most of you have those today, than NASA had when they landed a man on the moon. Because of the possibilities, we've entered the UAS market on the ground floor, and since 2007, when the DDC started working on this initiative, the Dayton region has now been given the state's banner to run with. In just 1 year, Ohio has gone from one of 50 states competing for a UAS test site to one of FAA's top choices for UAS integration into the national airspace system. In just 1 year, we've established Ohio's UAS conference, which was attended by 500 conference goers at Sinclair across 3 continents, 22 states, 130 businesses, and 13 universities. And yet the UAS initiative is just one small aspect of the region's economic development opportunities. To ensure the region's efforts are more coordinated, in 2012, the coalition led the development of a comprehensive economic development strategy, also known as a CEDS. This document is a plan required for communities to receive funding in the U.S. Economic Department of Administration. Currently, there are 6 communities in the Dayton region that have a CEDS, but a regional CEDS expands the region's eligibility to get EDA funding and allows our communities to quickly respond and needs opportunities as they arise throughout our 14 counties. This is another tool the region will have at its disposal as it continues to speak with one voice. Any strategy to grow the Dayton region must possess the ability to measure assets, identify areas of opportunities to improve, measure outcomes, and develop a process for continual improvement. In the past, the primary factor used to measure economic development success across the country has been the creation of jobs. This measurement is often an indirect impact of other indicators like exports, workforce availability that we hear a lot about today from our businesses, government contracts, and access to R&D. If the region can measure indicators impacting economic growth and evaluate the region by each indicator on an annual basis, then economic development professionals, local and state officials, businesses, and academia could all impact job creation by focusing on indicators they can influence. To give us a baseline and develop strategies, the coalition will publish an innovation index in 2013. Many communities have developed an innovation index. In these communities, the index has performed many functions: an engagement tool for academia, stakeholders, and public officials, a blueprint for regional priorities based on strengths and weaknesses, the ability to measure outcomes rather than inputs, and for those communities that have been publishing an index annually, They are identifying bellwether indicators that reflect the fundamental of long-term regional health. This year, we will publish the region's first Innovation Index and host a regional planning summit. The primary outcome will be a regional roadmap for economic development that we can all own, impact, and implement. To put imagination to work and vision to practical implementation requires risk and action. Earlier in the program, we heard Dr. Hopkins quote Thomas Edison. Edison has been known as one of the world's most prolific inventors. With more than 1,000 patents to his name, he's an innovator with some lessons to teach. Edison took risks. He once said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." To remove the fear from the risks, we must look at failures as an opportunity to learn and try again. Infusing data and strategy into our actions and initiatives may help us find economic development won't work, and it will take us one step closer to the breakthrough we need for this region. Risks and actions backed with data and strategy are the Coalition's priorities in 2013. This philosophy was firmly established in 2012 through changes to our recruitment, retention, and expansion initiatives. We have made the conscious decision to take the subjectivity out of our business development processes and have used a data-driven approach to find opportunities with the most impact for this region. From finding the companies in our region that are ripe to expand, to identifying the best companies across the nation that would benefit from relocating in the Dayton region, our team is armed with data and strategy that takes the guesswork out of our investment of time, energy, and money. Our Jobs Ohio team from Columbus is here with us today, and we look forward to working with you once again in 2013. With targeted recruitment and expansion strategies underway, we can set our sights on another opportunity that has not suffered from imagination and vision and is ripe for risk and action: commercialization. We heard Lisa Mitchell earlier this afternoon. Commercialization isn't limited to the Silicon Valley or the Bostons. The Dayton region possesses such a strong concentration of R&D and a capacity for innovative manufacturing. Commercialization should be occurring here naturally. Connecting science to market must be a priority for this community. Let's take our lead from Edison and not dwell on the roadblocks, but find creative ways around these challenges. The best way to navigate those challenges is to remain adaptable. The next 5 years will present us with many opportunities we could not have planned for and many challenges that will require flexibility to address. The biggest unknown we face in this region is future-based realignment and closure commission. In 1995, the Dayton region was unsuccessful in our BRAC efforts. We learned from this process, and the 2005 BRAC resulted in very positive changes for this region because our entire community worked together to advocate for right pat and turn a potential threat into an opportunity. This approach resulted in more than $350 million of new construction and more than 1,100 new jobs at the base and 1,000 more outside the fence. These projects came in time and under budget, and there's a lot of people in this room that we need to be thankful for yesterday, today, and into the future. Last year, the state of Ohio recognized this success and charged the coalition with the development and implementation of a statewide strategy. Our goal is to strengthen the aerospace and defense industry for the Dayton region and Ohio, and to generate strategies that will protect our defense installations from mission loss. This has the potential to be a tough task as we face uncertain budget constraints, as we heard General Moore speak about today. The federal government could look to cut another $500 billion from the Department of Defense. The Dayton region will likely see cuts to its federal workforce, but this community can find a balance supporting the needs of the Air Force and advocating for future of aerospace and defense research and development. The missions at AFRL and LCMC are critical to the future of the Air Force and its modern fleet, and we will defend and adapt to the changes on the horizon. General Moore, Colonel Cassie Barlow, thank you again for joining us today, for all you do, and for the airmen that continue to support our community and our country. And beyond our defense installations, this region has a mandate to adapt to unexpected outcomes. From our ESP program to developing the workforce our industries require, we have challenges to adapt our strategies around. Edison once said, "Being busy does not always mean real work. The object of all work is production or accomplishment, and to either of these ends there must be forethought, system, planning, intelligence, and honest purpose, as well as perspiration. Seeming to do is not doing. 2013 will be a year for doing. The coalition is establishing satellite offices around the region to ensure more engagement than ever before. We will need your help as a community to develop our game plan for future BRACs and other federal efficiencies. The Innovation Index will require input from many in this theater today, and we look forward to the process of discovery at the Regional Planning Summit. From data-driven